Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today we're going to build a really wholesome, complete understanding of a mental trap we all fall into. Why exactly does the human mind so often crave the exact thing it's been told not to want? I mean, have you ever noticed how a simple no can instantly make something feel 10 times bigger than it was just a second ago? It's a completely universal problem. We're looking at the puzzle of why prohibition, being told we can't have something, isn't treated as a solid brick wall by our brains. Instead, our brain treats it like a flashing neon sign saying, hey, look over here. Picture this. Think of a narrow, busy street in Lahore. Imagine you're walking past a shop, and there's a closed gate with a handwritten "Not for Entry" sign slapped right on it. For most of us, that sign doesn't just block our access, it immediately sparks our interest. And it's not because the shop itself suddenly became magical, right? It's because the restriction completely hijacked our attention. Suddenly, that boring shop becomes a challenge, a mystery, and we feel a weird sense of possible loss if we don't get in. So here's the absolute crucial point to keep in mind. Forbidden attraction is almost never just about pure desire. It's actually desire plus resistance. People aren't usually chasing the forbidden thing because it's genuinely better for them. They're just reacting to the psychological pressure of being pushed away. Keep that little equation in the back of your head as we keep going. Okay, let's peel back the first layer. We need to look at what restriction actually does to the shape of our desire. Because, when something is freely available, we just treat it as normal. It's boring. But the second you limit it, the whole charge changes. Think of water flowing through a pipe. This is a brilliant way to illustrate how we react to blocked goals. When the pipe is wide open, the water flows quietly. No big deal. But if something suddenly narrows that pipe, pressure instantly builds up. The water itself hasn't changed its substance at all, just its behavior. And human psychology is exactly the same. Just like water in a narrowed pipe, restriction creates an immediate, intense psychological pressure in our minds. Plus, we have to remember that the mind loves a mental shortcut. Our brains are basically wired to automatically assume that a scarce or limited object is extremely precious. We subconsciously think, well, if it's hard to get, it absolutely must be valuable. The scarcity shortcut acts as a signal for quality. It sharpens our attention, and it quietly inflates our desire, often before we even know the first thing about the actual object. And that brings us to a much deeper psychological reaction. There's a term for this. It's called reactance. This is our natural psychological pushback against feeling controlled or having our freedom limited. When a ban or a moral boundary is put in place, it actually amplifies our interest because getting that forbidden object becomes a test of our own independence. You're not even wanting the thing anymore. You're just fiercely resisting being told what you can and can't do. We also have to talk about uncertainty. You know how an unlit room always feels way more dramatic and scary than it actually is? A partially hidden or restricted object works the exact same way. It gives the mind totally blank canvas to project exaggerated meaning onto. Our imagination rushes in to fill the gaps, and let's be honest, imagination is never neutral. It always adds extra color, a little danger, and a lot of promise. So when you synthesize all these mental forces, it's pretty wild. The mind takes a forbidden thing and treats it as a locked door that creates blockage, a scarce resource that inflates value, a trigger for reactance against control, and a mystery that sparks uncertainty, literally all at the same time. When you break it down like that, no wonder the forbidden feels so incredibly powerful to us. All right, let's go a bit deeper into layer 2. We're transitioning from the physical mechanics into the emotional bridge. Here, we see that curiosity is the real connection between that external restriction we just talked about and our internal emotional desire. And curiosity is not passive, folks. It is a highly active, searching force. There's a brilliant insight from the source material that sums this up perfectly. The mind does not like unfinished stories, and a forbidden thing is often an unfinished story. Think about a jigsaw puzzle that's missing just one single piece. That gap practically screams at you for closure. That means our curiosity actually begins as a tense, uncomfortable search for information and resolution, rather than a genuine hunger for the object itself. So let's trace exactly how this builds. It's basically a step-by-step psychological chain reaction. Step 1, restriction blocks your access. Step 2, that uncertainty leaves details totally unclear. Step 3, this sparks immense curiosity because your mind desperately wants to know more. By step 4, meaning starts attaching to the object. And finally, in step 5, attraction fully emerges. That interest is now highly emotionally charged. You can see how wanting the forbidden is actually a carefully constructed mental system, not just a random glitch. And right around this point in the sequence, something fascinating happens. Curiosity turns inward. The attraction completely stops being about the object itself, and it starts being about what wanting that object says about your own personal identity. The forbidden thing becomes a powerful symbol. It stands for your independence, your boldness, maybe a bit of rebellion, your status, or having access to secret knowledge.
We call this the mirror effect. It's when we start seeing our own hopes and fears reflected right back at us. For example, our source highlights a scenario where a young professional in Lahore might become completely obsessed with a highly restricted exclusive overseas fellowship. But the attraction isn't actually for the education itself. The program's exclusivity symbolizes status, access, and finally belonging to a higher social circle. The object stays exactly the same, but the meaning has morphed to reflect that person's identity.
Which brings us right down to the innermost core, layer 3. Now that we've mapped out the physical mechanics and the emotional sequence, we can take all these psychological insights and turn them into something really useful: empowering self-awareness. Because once you recognize the pattern running underneath the illusion, the pressure, the scarcity, the curiosity, you finally stop confusing intensity with truth. You can look at a situation and differentiate between genuine desire versus the distortion created by constraint. You can spot true interest versus a temporary fixation. You can see actual, real value versus a totally manufactured emotional charge. Basically, you can observe your own attraction without letting it control you. So, as you move forward with a much calmer, clearer relationship to your own mind, I want to leave you with this one provocative thought. The next time you feel that magnetic, undeniable pull of the forbidden, ask yourself, are you genuinely drawn to the object itself, or are you just chasing what it represents? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Next time you hear a no, I really hope you remember the hidden system working right behind it.